We are back, and thanks for bearing with us as we just make sure all the players are good to go with their connections and they're ready and comfortable to get into the lobby. And I believe they are. I think there's issues have been sorted, and we should be jumping into game number 2 very, very soon. So just a very quick recap indeed. Their All Dragon is going to be sitting at the top currently on 7 points as the winner of the previous game. And honestly, a lot of eyes need to be drawn to Orov, Kayomi, and to an extent, Babelfat and Dapido, and at 2.5 points as well. So the bottom 4 really do need to make waves in this game number 2, whereas the others can get by with an okay game. Of course, we will be looking at anyone who's ends up in that 7th and 8th spot, of course, but really it's those bottom 2 players for me that really have to make a big impact now to have any terms of feeling comfortable going into game number 3.
Yeah, and as we were just talking about before we went to the break, the options have been taken away, right? There are limited options to begin with, but they are now certainly the ones that are going to have to be taking the bigger risks in proceedings. And chasing the win like that can just end up with you getting punished in a lot of positions. It does look like hero selection is now underway. Orov with the Barov. Looks like it might be a pretty solid pick here, but Rafam is thrown into the mix as well, making that a slightly tougher decision than it might otherwise seem. There's no beast again! Stop offering people Shudder Walk with no beast. It's just cruel. I demand to speak to the manager. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, this is pretty rough. We do see it again, another Ashara. We see Rafam picked up. Again, for me, Rafam's a choice I would have made because I think I'm just bad at Barov, or I have bad experiences, therefore I never pick it anymore, even though I know it is good. But yeah, Orov has gone for the Rafam play, and we do see Tess from Unsay as well. So that's another of those thief heroes, right? We talked about earlier along with Scab. So be very important to keep an eye on him. As long as he doesn't just get pressured out super early, Tess is an absolute nightmare in those like Naga sort of head-to-head kind of plays, right? Because you can always do more than them on the turn after by cycling their own Naga.
Yes, which means we do now have to talk about the dynamic, which once again, like this meta is so polarized, so spiked in one direction that weird things which never used to be true are now true. And again, you'll kind of see this question come up from more casual players who are just learning the game. Like, is it correct to make myself weaker to grief Rafam? Is it better to make myself weaker to grief Tess? The answer to that, in 99% of situations, is no. They are one of your 7 opponents, and just you looking out for your own game plan is probably the best thing to do. However, the situation with Tess is so polarized that if you can, say, triple into a 6-drop, and then, say you triple into a 6-drop and you're at 31, so you can take 15 twice without dying, then it might be correct to not play that 6-drop on board against Tess going into that combat, because it's so warped and so polarized what Tess can do if it starts getting hold of Athissa. Because at that point, once they have the 6-drops, they can hero power and basically take anything they want from anyone else's board, right? They can take Sirens, they can take Shoals, they can take Archers, they can take basically anything they want. Whatever random piecemeal bits that the opponent has at any given point, they can just gobble it up because they already have the payoff card with the Athissa. So dynamic that we might be seeing later on into proceedings.
Yeah, this honestly, just speaking about heroes, is one of the stronger overall lobbies I think we've seen, right? I'm staring at every hero choice. I'm like, wow, yeah. They're all, no one feels like they've whiffed, right? Because even Master Nguyen, I think, has been holding up a pretty solid rate with the rotating hero powers, as we can see here, right? Babelfot probably got bad memories about using the Yasharaj hero power from the previous game, so he might go for Imprison Him.
So I can press that and get a mug. Yeah, that doesn't seem very good. Press that and feel like a mug, more like it, the way it's been going.
Does fit his turn very well, though, right? 5 gold, 2 gold hero power, gain a minion. He's going to freeze for the double shell in the shop as well.
And that's going to be a 100% win for sure. Well, even more so now. It was a 100% tie, I believe, before the extra 2-drop appeared. So nice, clean win for Babofat here. Chucking in that early damage to Queen Ashara, which we've already talked about, is crucial. You do want to punish those win-the-game heroes as hard as you can early. People will be out to get the Tess, the Queen Ashara. Again, I do believe that the tournament is played with visible, with who is playing what's visible, because it's just kind of considered part of the metagame at this point. So you will be able to factor that into your equation as well.
Yeah, Dappy is a very good start as Maiev, right? Using the hero power on the pigs, not only is he gaining spells with the blood gems, but also just having a triple, right? Like it's kind of ticking every single box you could possibly want this early in the game. Obviously a little bit delayed in leveling itself, but I imagine we can see a level turn next turn with another hero power.
Yep, this is very standard for Maiev, playing what has become known as Reform Curve, because Reform was really the first hero that came along that wanted to be pressing a 1-mana hero power, and that kind of became more and more common when Maiev was introduced, Eudora was introduced, all of these heroes that wanted to weave in a 1-mana hero power every turn. Maiev playing on Reform Curve does allow them to then be very greedy, continue to go up the levels and turn any of those 1-drop triples that they find into 6-drops, which is the name of the game. And with one of those triples already banked, the curve is going to work out very nicely for the Maiev to be picking up at least 1-6 on curve this game.
Yeah, Max clearing up with the Ashara. Does get a roll, but again, into nothing that impressive. So just going to take a 4-4, as it's just the biggest overall minion available to him. A little bit painful, a little bit unfortunate, but still, he's keeping up with the levels overall. And even beating out some of the other players who are staying a little bit lower. But often when you see a player stay on a lower tavern tier, it's because that hero can afford to or should, right?
And once again, we are piecing things together with Queen Ashara. Yet again, it's a no-dragon lobby, which, we have seen dragons, so they're not as cursed as beasts have been in this tournament so far. But it does seem like we've been looking at a lot of Queen Asharas who have not had the easy Chroma Wing solution. Even in the lobby where dragons were available, the Ashara player did not find the Chroma Wing on Tavern 1 to be able to make this easy. So Max is just kind of piecing this together turn by turn. Here we have turn 5 still some distance away from getting this done. Seems unlikely that it will happen on 6 here yet again.
Yeah, pretty strong board here from Hooktusk.
Oh, the VT. Oh, the VT back again. Okay, finds the try.
Up to even overall, which I think is fine.
Yeah, those last 2 trades were huge just in terms of tie versus taking damage. Coming in with Tess, looking like we're off to a reasonable start here. Plenty of early synergy with the Lava Lurkers and with the Snail. This is kind of the tempo start that you want, which is very nice because the one thing that Tess can suffer with is just a little bit of early damage. Their hero power doesn't actually affect the board immediately, so that 1 extra gold that you kind of have to spend on rolling in weird positions if you want to pick up your opponent's stuff can cause you to fall a little bit further behind on tempo. But if you're double Lava Lurker, double Snail, then I don't think you're going to be having too many tempo troubles in the early game.
Wait, is Komi going for the triple now? No, okay. I was very confused for a second there, but yeah, it looks like he's going to go for the triple next turn to go into 6, which makes much more sense.
Yep, this all looks perfect to me. This gambler kind of enabling this play as well. Normally you wouldn't buy sell through as much of that stuff as you would there because you want to have that gold for options next turn when you go to 6. But because you have the gambler available, you have an excess of gold available on the following turn anyway. So Koyomi just decided, hey, I'm going to switch into some milk here, maybe pick up a couple of extra spellcraft spells, because if I now triple into that Athissa, I'm going to be really, really potentially heavily set up.
Exactly right. He clearly wants to transition into Naga, as everyone does, and that just makes sense to just have access to some spells, because the rest of his board doesn't, right? He doesn't really have any Naga generating spells right now, so he will have something at least, and looks like he's going to take care of this no problem, as far as I can see.
Yep, looks good. Picks up one of the 2 possible blood gems there as well, which, you know, also juices a potential Athissa. Now, hopefully, we will just stay here and see what this outcome is going to be, because I'm sure we are tripling into a 6 right here, right now.
Nice tempo spell, too, with the +8, right? I think that's nice just for that, because I can't imagine Komi's actually going to just suddenly have a board full of Naga this specific turn. So one more turn security here. Oh, there it is.
Welcome to the team.
Only he didn't get picked quicker because he was just scratching his It's the only reason. That would have been snap picked otherwise.
Cholga, welcome to the team. Welcome to the losing team.
Who leaves this junk in our sea?
Orgazoid, welcome to the team. This is the scenario I was talking about before. Where, because Siren was in play again, we didn't see the triple. Don't know if the if it was offered up against the Athissa, but because Siren is there specifically, I would always, almost always, take the Orgazoa straight up in this position, because you have the Siren immediately proccing the extra value. You're strong enough that you can get away with it. Lorinda just confirming for us that the other 2 picks were nothing, so this is just a straight up choice, but I do think it illustrates the position nicely. And even though this is a 4 Naga board, which you might just argue, or sorry, a 3 Naga board that would be a 4 Naga board if you pick the Athissa to be your 4th Naga, I still think just the Siren Orgazoa synergy is just generally more valuable to use as a building block.
Yeah, and on 27 health, and because you don't want to be stacking the mini Myrmidons, I think it's right? Like, there's enough health that Dappy can actually take a good amount of hits here if, you know, he really has to, and still feel good for the following turn.
Oh,
he's in.
Welcome to the team. Tess has found the Athissa that you are looking for. Yuan-Sei now gets to roll into this, pick up the win condition, and all of this early tempo. You can see how important this is, because look at that break point. You fight the high roller, you fight the spike player, you take the damage because you're always going to lose to that. But because of the amount of early health protected by all this tempo, 16. And 16 is the second best number
triple?
in Battlegrounds. After 31, 16 is the best number.
Even getting the snail triple as well, absolutely huge. Ticking all the boxes here.
What have I become?
Okay, that is relatively early as well, right? Considering how stacked it can potentially get to the Myrmidon.
Yes, it is. The one downside right now for Tess is no passive scaling. So my eyes immediately gravitate toward Orof, the Rafarm, who is the next opponent for Tess. And would you believe it, there is an Orgazoa and a Siren in Tess's future. But yeah, let's find something else to do, Lorinda, with these last 30 seconds while we wait for that to happen. Sisyphus now loading up. Looks like he has conceded that he has whiffed this game. He is now going into full poison scam. We are seeing the Bristleback Knight being kind of a common component as that as well. It's a very high value Divine Shield minion that you can throw in. But yeah, this is a give up board if I've ever seen one from Sisyphus. He is resigned to just trying to scam as many extra places as he can.
Yeah.
Absolutely the right thing to do.
And also as well, obviously, as you said, he'd be trying to gain any possible points, which is great. He was also second place currently on 6 points. So if he has a middling game, if he can just gain a few points, he's still looking fine, right? It's not like as if like Koyomi got an 8th place now. It would be absolutely heartbreaking for him. Does get 2 poisons activated as well, which again...
Go left! It goes right! Oh, that 6 damage lives!
It's 1 million damage.
That is death damage, is what it is. It's damage cap damage going through. That Orgazoa value trading into the non-poisoned minion means that Sisyphus is going to bite the dust. We see Dragon taking a chunk here as well. Lots of value in hand. I see. Double Nest Matron. I was wondering, I should have probably noticed the common connection of Battle Cry being on all of these cards in hand, but this does make a lot of sense.
This is tough. Like, well, where does All Dragon need to go from this point? He has a lot of access to gold. He has a jumble of minions, is the words I'm going to choose to use here.
Okay.
Like, what is he trying to do?
Well, live, first and foremost. Personally, I mean, I find that question difficult to answer because my immediate reaction would have been
Naga.
press the button, use that gold, and then try and find Manted Queens and Leroys on 6, right? To be able to defend from this position because you're too late to go Naga, usually. But the fact is that All Dragon stayed on 5 and is just trying to find additional tempo, is just loading up these battle cries into maximum stats and just trying to outlast one more player, which again, I think shows a difference in this spot between my general mindset, which is a ladder mindset, and All Dragon's position, which is, well, I finished first last lobby, so who cares about actually scrapping for top 4? If I can turn this 7th into 6th and then turn that 6th into 5th, I'll take that, and then we'll play lobby 3 and we'll see where things end up.
And this is a play that's actually ended on something huge here that Vol'jin's very good at, which is the Myrmidon, right? Vol'jin, big stats. Obviously, it's better if you have stacks and Nagas already because they're normally a lot bigger. But 34-66 out. Oh! Good trade.
It was close. It was so close. Yeah, I mean, to fully finish the point as to why we're seeing this so often, taunts being made big and then being swapped away from having taunt, it's because of exactly that Leroy dynamic that we keep seeing, right? That makes your Leroy trade into a 2-2 instead of a massive, the biggest minion on your opponent's board. Also the reason, by the way, where I keep harping on about this, and I really feel like the players that we're watching are undervaluing this, the magnetic mech spellcraft interaction is also so huge because it allows you to give Divine Shield to things without taunt by putting the Divine Shield on a menace and then magnetizing that onto something on your board. You create a Divine Shield non-taunt, which is then Leroy resistant, right? Because their Leroy goes into your taunt minion instead of your Divine Shield minion, which is another factor you can throw in that's very similar.
Yeah, though Dappy has all of the tools required, honestly. A second Athissa in hand. A decent amount of spells to, again, start stacking the stats. Does have the Siren, but it is only a normal one. I think, again, other than a golden Athissa, I think the next step is a golden Siren in a lot of cases, right? Just to really start rolling. The main outcome, of course, being that, well, 2 Sirens is kind of the same, but it's not. It's 2 spaces on board when you could do the same thing for 1.
I do think this is interesting, just watching this dynamic play out, like, even in comparison to my ladder games, which, like, right now, my ladder games are pretty high level, right? Like, it's early season, I'm top 50.
I'm gonna brag, but I'm a
No, I was
bit
just
of a big
saying,
deal.
like, my lobbies tend to have, like, 1 or 2, like, XQN, Soren type people in it, right? Like, 1 or 2 of them. The difference between that and 8 of those players in the same lobby is still striking me. And this isn't just a humble brag, I do have a point to make here, because in my situation on ladder, I would be selling this Brute right now because I don't care about it. I want to replace that with another Spellcraft minion so that I can pump my my Athissa and my Siren value even more, and then end up the one other person that's also hit the nuts in the lobby, so I end up bigger than them. That dynamic is so different when like 4, 5, 6 people are all just doing the same thing and on a similar footing with you in the same lobby. You can't afford to take those one-turn hits in tempo because you just get immediately murdered.
And also as well, like as you mentioned before, the big deal is you're not playing 3 games for points on ladder. You're just playing for you know, made up points, unless you're top 16, I guess. We did just see Babofat go out there in 7th, which is rough, right? He was only on 2.5 points so far. The 7th won't gain him much either. Babofat would have to do something miraculous in the next game to give him any chance of making that top 4. All Dragon, though, still just surviving, even on 1 health. If you've got 1 health and you're not dead, which is all you really need, honestly. So he's doing a good job of banking a minimum of a 6th. He is going up against Max on the Ashara. So let me have a quick look at that one. Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah. Maybe not looking too great for All Dragon in this next fight, but still.
Oh, Athissa, though. No Athissa for Max, so the numbers are relatively small. There's good Divine Shield value, and it has been milking a Lava Lurker, which is one individually huge minion. But no Athissa to be seen just yet. We saw Dragon picking up the new Murkai in that position, which is something that we haven't talked about too much. I did touch on it at the beginning. It was kind of covered in that glossary of like, you know, Dark Gaze Elder, Murkai. Those are the things that I think you generally should not be doing in these lobbies when I said don't go into another minion type and start scaling a different minion type, because it just doesn't work. That's kind of where we are, I think, with Murkai, and you kind of see that, right? Like, this is Dragon's board. He has a Bran, he has some Murloc battle cries.
On board.
It's just not being put on the board because it's, you know, it's that irrelevant to the situation. Good trades.
Yeah, poisoning the Myrmidon, getting some work done, does get rid of the Bran, which is a big deal.
Yes.
He's alive again? Job done?
Yep. I mean, this is exactly it, right? Turn the 7th into 6th, then turn the 6th into 5th. It's exactly what I was saying a couple of turns ago. It's exactly what Dragon has done. We could just find out who Dragon's next opponent is. I think he might have found the end of the road, but I do believe that this is John. Oh, he found the Ghost as well! Turn that 5th into 4th. Let's go!
That's Koyomi, right? The Ghost. So he has, Dragon has the weaker Naga player as a Ghost to go against this turn.
Okay, beatable.
Very beatable, yeah, very beatable.
Yeah. Again, it goes to show how warped this meta is when we're like, okay, you're fighting the Ghost, but they are one of the Naga players,
Yeah.
so you might have a chance against them. Yeah.
We're off here with a, you know, a big mixed bag of minions. The Golden Chalga just wondering what he's doing here. He thought he was still on a break.
I mean, actually, now that you mention it, what on earth has occurred on this board? How have we got to this position?
He tripled into a 4, I believe.
Yes.
Got the Fire Elemental, and then I think just carried on.
Fire Elemental?
Not Fire, well, what's it called? The AoE, the cleave.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, the rest of the game, I don't know. I think from that point where he tripled into it and then just it felt like a whiff, he probably, from what I've been noticing anyway on the turn by turn stuff, he just went for the poison sort of best minion style just to get him through.
Okay. To be fair, it is providing Quillbore minion type to him right now, which with double Manted in play is actually doing quite a lot of work, as you now see them bless themselves with the Divine Shields. Once again, this is the no Athissa Naga board on the other side, which is still a very beatable scenario. That's a great trade into the Divine Shield poison.
And the Divine Shield on the small one.
Yeah, and now with multiple big minions and 2 poisons left over, that's going to value trade into the smaller minion, and that means that Orof is going to survive as well. Right? And kill the Queen Ashara, who has gone this entire game without actually finding any real legitimate Naga scaling, which means
Dragon moonwalk
with this nonsense of a board, and Orof with that nonsense of a board, has outlasted 2 different Naga players who hit on their triples, which beautiful stuff. Well-deserved points for both Orof and Dragon in this spot.
And 2 very different stories as well, right? Dragon's coming off the back of winning the previous game, which means now, at worst, a top 4. He might be Orof at this point, who knows? Although, who is he actually facing? Oh, he's facing Dappy, yeah.
He's facing Dappy, yeah.
But also, Orof finished 7th in the previous game at 1 point. So the fact that he's moving up again to a minimum of top 4, like that's the recovery game, right? At worst from this point. So then he can make plans for game 3 after this performance. I think, as you said, both players have done a great job of just pulling a finish out of absolutely nowhere.
And this is the question, right? Is you look at what was facing on the other side. You look at what is on Dappy's board. Like, how do you make this beat that? that's the
cool
question.
And a selfless hero.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Throw Tony in there for good times. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just saying poison equals poison, so I'll just dump the extra stats onto the Myrmidon, hope that that then competes with one giant Naga on the other side, right? By giving 52 attack, which is then 104 attack, you're saying, okay, this is now also poisonous, right? Even against high roll Naga at this point. I've made another poisonous minion by giving it 104 attack, which, yeah, makes sense. Value trade available, yes. Oh, so close!
Good effort. Good
like
effort.
2 damage away on 1 break point of being able to survive another tie, and yes, as predicted.
Yeah.
Round of applause, great effort, Or Dragon and Orof. Really, I think, putting up the showing of the tournament in that lobby, scrapping with messy stuff to outlast Naga players and find themselves in that top 4. But as predicted, it is going to be, once again, the 2 of the players that hit and hit hard who are now back in business, and it's going to be a top 2 showdown with a Tess involved, which is always an utterly miserable feeling when you are not the Tess.
Yeah, that is very true. Although it's also a weird test board as well, like with like preemptive 2 Leroys on. I very much have seen a lot of tests, you know, have the strong Naga board, and then if needed, switch to the sort of tech, as opposed to starting with double tech instead. So.
Very weird here, by the way. That's 2 hero-powered dormant minions in a Tavern 6 shop, which means Dappy is actually losing a minion on every single roll right now, which is not something that you see too often at this level. Very curious as to what led him into that situation.
Importantly as well, one of them is Argus, so he can taunt up a Leroy if needed, something we've seen a few times in the past.
Yep.
Mantid as well, although I imagine this is just going to be Psycho play the glow scale and maybe hero power the Mantid, but again, as you mentioned, like the more hero powers lay down for any given turn, the more of a problem it is.
Yeah, I really don't like continuing to hero power here if you're going to. If you want that Mantid, you can just freeze it and pick it up next turn. You could even double sell something, including the Ghoul, to pick it up now if you really wanted to.
And both players going to get a look at their updated boards and really see what they're going to have to fight against to make something happen.
Decent opening hits for Dappy. That is a fantastic hit for Dappy. There's now a value trade available, but yeah, numbers just
too
not
much.
there.
Yeah.
Too much on the other side. We'll have to go through one more fight because 14 is not enough, but Tess just once again gets to pick and choose whatever is available from this buffet of Naga on the other side. It's so silly.
Yeah, you just do whatever you want.
Just whatever you want, mate. Just have it. It's fine.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, because of the way Yonsei's minions have sort of shaken out and the way the warband's been made, there's no natural glow scale in the build, right? And normally that's the one I would like end on in this kind of test face-off scenario. But he has like a relatively weak Naga with the taunt, right? Instead, so. And the problem is it's gone too far past the point that he can bail on it because it's too big and providing too many buffs. But it's not straightforward, but he does have his option now at the coveted golden Leroy if he really wanted it.
Yeah, he had that at the start of the turn as well, and then just like sold out one of his Leroy to then pick up another one as well as some other stuff. Yeah, I think if there is any weakness in Yonsei's game right now, it's that he does just have one taunt, which is also arguably his best minion, right? That's not the situation you want to be in a late game battle.
He has 2 technically, right?
Yes, yeah, okay.
The other minion will give itself taunt.
Yes,
every
very
turn.
true.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not the best Naga board I've ever seen, but it's still just strong.
Yes. So the big factor then is where that spellcraft goes from the actual taunt minion. I do like that he has been putting it on the Mantid generally to be able to pick up that Divine Shield. Cleaves off the Divine Shield with the first attack. Second attack is okay, but once again, it just seems to me like the numbers are too small on the other side. Yeah. He would need it at the very least to get into a position where that 60 attack minion that he had dealt with the 70 health taunt on the other side, right? If he can make that breakpoint happen, then his Brute might be able to take a 2-for-1 at the end of the fight and find a tie. But because his numbers were just ever so slightly smaller than the Tess on the other side, which they're always kind of going to be when you get to that position of the game, because Tess just gets to pick and choose whatever you want, that's always going to be an uphill battle from that point. And just to make the point, Tess finished that game on Tavern 5. With,
Yes.
with Golden Athissa, Golden Siren, 2 Leroys, Manted Queen, like everything from 6 that you could possibly want. Tavern 5 just doesn't need to go there. Just steal it from everyone else. That's fair. Remember Priest? Everyone enjoyed that, right? Let's just do that, but in Battlegrounds. Yeah, sure, okay.
You see Yonsu and All Dragon basically mirroring each other at this point now, both equal, 11.5 points. Koyomi struggling at 2 going into the final game, and extremely unlikely, if not reasonably impossible, to make it into top 4. Babofat also struggling at 3.5, but above that, you know, it's still all up for grabs, right? Obviously, Dappy looking the best beneath the next 2 players at the top, but still a lot up for grabs here in this final game. But yeah, Tess is a monster, and I think what was cool about the taunt on the Mantid as well is it made putting the Brute further up so it can attack early and maybe get some Wind Fury on the smaller minions. Not doable, because if the Mantid's taunted and you hit your shield on someone else first and then hit into the Mantid, you just lose the Brute, right? So I think that positioning and that sort of Naga late game face-off is super interesting, because there's so many different ways you can position and like force your opponent into weird scenarios.
All right. So here's what we're doing for our final lobby, okay? We're doing Naga, Mechs, Quillbore, Beasts, Dragons. That's our lobby, okay? Calling it now. It's what we need. It's what we need. All the things that I've been talking about all day about, oh, we can't do this because X is not in. You just put all of those X's in together and just have the Giga lobby to round off the day. That's how it has to work now.
I think it's not going to happen, and that's how the final game happens of tomorrow, is just right. Everyone have everything. Go. It's possible. But yeah, really good game there. I like the way All Dragon just played this out and made this work. I think this is impressive because it's so hard to do. It's to like keep up and like position yourself in a spot where you just, as you mentioned, just you go from 6th to 5th, you go up another one, you go up another one, right? And that just secures so many more points. And now with All Dragon and Yonsei, 11.5 points going into game 3. They just have to not completely mess up, right? There are so many things that would have to go wrong for them not to feel safe at this point. I think they've had a great couple of games so far.
Yeah, Orof, All Dragon, I think, shout out. That was the lobby of the tournament for me from those 2 players. Again, you know, I described it originally. You recapped it perfectly. Like, that's the job. When you get in a position like that, you're like, okay, I don't have the Naga, I don't have the Athissa, I don't have anything going for me. So I'm going to win this fight and then another one. And then I'm just going to DJ Khaled my way all the way as far up the rankings as I possibly can until other people around me die. And it's just all you can do. And saying that, in principle, is so much easier than actually doing it. Yes, there was luck. The 5th, I think, entirely played for and got by All Dragon in particular. And then for me, then finding the Ghost, that's the good fortune that you're then rewarded for,
right.
for getting yourself in that position, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to get a top 4 from that spot, but you put yourself in a position where the Ghost is available and you have as good a chance as 2 other players around you of being able to hit that.
I mean, as simple as that, if he didn't survive long enough, he would have been the Ghost. There you go. So you can't fight the Ghost if you're already dead. But yeah, that was just game number 2, and that means, honestly, I felt like I've blinked, but we've only got one more game of the day left, and it's going to decide.
Raven, welcome to Battlegrounds casting. It's bliss over here. This is what every day is like.
What is this easy mode casting going on? What is this? But we have only got one more game left, so make sure you stay tuned to catch that, as we will then be able to tell you who our top 8 are going into tomorrow, the final day of Lobby Legends Noblegarden. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.